Bună seara, dragi telespectatori! Continuăm în această seară seria emisiunilor despre autovindecare. Mai precis, vom vorbi despre efectul placebo și ce înseamnă acesta. Doamna dr. Balan ne va explica imediat acest concept. Doamna dr. Balan, ce este efectul placebo?
Efectul placebo este așa un fel de indiciu că medicina obișnuită, medicina, să zicem, vestică, are o logică așa cu fisuri, cu rateuri, cu erate. Acesta este efectul placebo. Este un exemplu de erată pentru că el nu poate fi explicat logic, medical, la ora aceasta. Acum, am putea să le explicăm sau am putea să luăm în calcul decât dacă nu cumva teoria medicinii obișnuite, care abordează corpul fizic exclusiv, nu este decât un castel de cărți de joc care poate pica la cea mai ușoară suflare dumnezeiască. Și așa se și întâmplă, pentru că așa se întâmplă cu viețile oamenilor și Dumnezeu, cel care dirigează tot, are acest drept pentru că El face cărțile.
Can the mind really heal the body? And if so, is there any scientific evidence to convince skeptical physicians like me? These are the questions that fueled the last few years of my research. And what I discovered is that the scientific community, the medical establishment, has been proving for over 50 years that the mind can heal the body. We call it the placebo effect. And we've been trying to outsmart it for decades. The placebo effect is a thorn in the side of the medical establishment. It's an inconvenient truth that gets in between trying to bring new treatments, new surgeries into the medical establishment. So it's a problem, supposedly. But I actually think this is really good news. The placebo effect is excellent news because it's concrete evidence that the body holds within it innate self-repair mechanisms that can make unthinkable things happen to the body. So if you find this surprising, if you have a hard time believing that the body can heal itself, you need look no further than the Spontaneous Remission Project, a database compiled by the Institute of Noetic Sciences of over 3,500 case studies in the medical literature of patients who have gotten better from seemingly incurable illnesses. You think there's such a thing as an incurable illness? I swear, if you go look at this database, it'll blow your mind. Everything's in there. Stage 4 cancers that disappeared without treatment. HIV-positive patients that became HIV negative. Heart disease, kidney failure, diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid disease, autoimmune diseases, gone. A great example of this in the medical literature is a case study from 1957 of Mr. Wright, who had advanced lymphosarcoma. So things weren't going well for Mr. Wright. Time was really running out. He had tumors the size of oranges in his armpits, his neck, his chest, his abdomen, his liver and his spleen were enlarged, and his lungs were filling up with 2 quarts of milky fluid every day that had to be drained in order for him to breathe. But Mr. Wright wasn't giving up hope. He had heard about this wonder drug called Krebiozin, and he was begging his doctor, come on, just give me some of that Krebiozin, it's all going to be good. Now, unfortunately, the Krebiozin was only available on a research protocol, and the protocol required that the doctor be able to make an assessment that says that this guy has at least 3 months to live. And his doctor, Dr. West, just couldn't do that. But Mr. Wright was tenacious, and he didn't give up. He kept badgering his doctor until finally his doctor was like, okay, fine, I'll give you the Krebiozin. So he dosed him up on a Friday, not expecting that Mr. Wright would make it through the weekend. But to his utter shock, when Dr. West came in to do rounds on Monday, Mr. Wright was up walking around the wards, and his tumors had shrunk to half their original size. They had melted like snowballs on a hot stove, and 10 days after getting the Krebiozin, they were gone. So Mr. Wright was up rocking and rolling, like praising Krebiozin as the miracle drug he believed it to be, for 2 months, until the initial reports came out about Krebiozin that said that it didn't really look like Krebiozin was working so well. And Mr. Wright fell into a deep depression, and his cancer came back. So this time, Dr. West decided to get sneaky, and he told his patient that, you know, that Krebiozin that you got, that was a tainted version, really not so good. But I got us some ultra-pure, highly concentrated Krebiozin. This stuff's got it going on. He then injected Mr. Wright with nothing but distilled water. And once again, the tumors disappeared. The fluid in his lungs went away. Mr. Wright was up rocking and rolling for another 2 months. And then the American Medical Association blew it by publishing a nationwide study that proved definitively crebiosin was worthless. 2 days later, Mr. Wright, after hearing this news, died. Soon after that, I came across another study in the medical literature that was the stuff of fairy tales. 3 baby girls were born, delivered by a midwife on Friday the 13th in the Okefenokee Swamp near the Georgia-Florida border. And the midwife pronounced that these 3 babies born on such a fateful day were all hexed. The first, she said, would die before her 16th birthday. The second, before her 21st. The third, before her 23rd birthday. And as it turned out, the first girl died the day before her 16th birthday. The second died the day before her 21st birthday. And the third girl, who knew what had happened to the other 2, got wind of that. On the day before her 23rd birthday, she showed up at the hospital hyperventilating, begging them to make sure she survived. She wound up dying that night. So these 2 case studies are great examples from the medical literature of the placebo effect and its opposite, the nocebo effect. So Mr. Wright, when he got that distilled water and his tumors melted away, that's a great example of the placebo effect, when you get a seemingly inert treatment, and yet something's happening physiologically in the body such that disease goes away. The nocebo effect is the opposite. So the 3 hexed girls are an example of the nocebo effect, when the mind's belief that something bad is going to happen in the body then comes to manifest. So the scientific literature, the medical journals like the New England Journal of Medicine and the Journal of the American Medical Association, these scientific journals are full of evidence that the placebo effect and the nocebo effect are incredibly powerful. We've known this since the 1950s, and we've seen countless case studies that show that in almost everything you study, if you give people a fake treatment, a sugar pill, a saline injection, or most effectively, a fake surgery, 18 to 80% of the time, people get better. And it's not just in their mind. That's what I thought in the beginning, like, oh, they're just feeling better, they're thinking better. But it's not. It's actually in their physiology. This is measurable. You can actually see what happens to the body. So, for example, patients getting placebos were found to have ulcers that healed, colons that became less inflamed, bronchi that dilated, warts that disappeared. Cells looked different under the microscope. It's provable. It's happening in the body, even though it's initiated by the mind. So when you look at these, some of the studies are just amazing. I love the Rogaine study. So, you get a bunch of bald men, you give them placebos, they grow hair. The opposite is also true. So if you give people a placebo and you tell them it's chemotherapy, they vomit and they lose their hair. So this is really happening in the body. And the question that I had is it just the mind's positive belief that's making this happen? Not according to Harvard researcher Ted Kaptchuk. According to him, he thinks that the most essential part is actually the nurturing care of a healthcare provider, more so even than the mind's positive belief. That some of the studies actually say the doctor is the placebo, or can be. So Ted Kaptchuk wanted to study this, and he did a great study looking at patients that were getting placebos for an illness, for treatment of an illness, and he told them, you're getting a placebo. There's nothing in here, inert ingredients, nothing active. They still got better. Most likely, Kaptchuk postulated, because they felt tended, nurtured. They felt like they were doing something. They felt like somebody cared. So to say that you can heal yourself is sort of a misnomer. The body can heal itself. The body has these innate natural self-repair mechanisms. But the scientific data proves that you need the tending, nurturing care of a healthcare provider of some sort, of a healer, to facilitate that process. It's not an easy process to go through alone. So it makes a big difference if somebody else is holding that positive belief with you.
Doamna doctor Balan, ce îi trebuie medicului ca să fie un efect placebo?
Să aibă har. Să aibă har dumnezeiesc. De ce? Pentru că el trebuie să ajungă la sufletul oamenilor. Nu numai la ficatul lor, știți? Harul le redă speranța vindecării pacienților. Și știți că speranța vine de la Dumnezeu. Medicul este doar purtătorul lui de cuvânt.
But the problem is, while the doctor can be the placebo, the doctor can also be the nocebo. So what patients need from us as healthcare providers, they need us to be forces of healing, not forces of fear or pessimism. So every time your doctor tells you you have an incurable illness, you're going to have to take that medication for the rest of your life. Or God forbid you get cancer and they say you've got a 5% 5-year survival rate. It's really no different than when that midwife told those 3 baby girls that they were hexed. It's a form of medical hexing that's so prevalent. As doctors, we think we're being realistic. We're giving people the kind of information we think they need to know, but we actually can be harming them. Instead, we need to be more like Dr. West, taking that distilled water. Really, Mr. Wright, I promise, this is going to do it for you. But do we have to count on our doctors to dupe us? Do we have to get fake surgeries and fake drugs and wind up in clinical trials? This is what led the next phase of my research. So in my last TEDx talk, I talked about a new wellness model that I developed called the Whole Health Cairn. And this came about as part of my research, trying to find how else can we harness this mind's power that's clearly evidenced by the placebo effect and the nocebo effect. Can we do something without being in a clinical trial? And my hypothesis was that in order to heal ourselves, in order to be optimally healthy, we need more than just a good diet, a regular exercise program, getting enough sleep, taking your vitamins, following your doctor's orders. Those things are all great and critical, important. But I also came to believe that we need healthy relationships, a healthy professional life, a healthy creative life, a healthy spiritual life, a healthy sex life, a healthy financial life, a healthy environment. In essence, we need a healthy mind. So I wanted to try to prove this, and I went into the medical literature, and the copious data that I found proving that all of those things are essential really blew my mind. I compiled them all into my upcoming book, Mind Over Medicine, Scientific Proof You Can Heal Yourself. But I want to give you a few highlights about what this is all about. So you can see from the Whole Health Cairn that all of these facets are built upon a foundation stone that I call your inner pilot light. And for me, that's that essential, authentic part of you that knows what's true for you, that's willing to tell you the truth about maybe what's out of alignment in your life, what stones in your whole health cairn might be out of balance. And as you see, I've put the body, physical health, on the top of the whole health cairn because it's the most fragile, the most precarious, and the most easy to kind of fall out of balance if other things in your life aren't going so well. So what I found in the medical data is that relationships matter. People who have a strong social network have half the rate of heart disease compared to those who are lonely. Married people are twice as likely to live long lives than unmarried people. In fact, curing your loneliness may be the most important measure of prevention you can enact upon your body, more so than quitting smoking or starting to exercise. Your spiritual life matters. Those who attend religious services live up to 14 years longer. Your professional life matters. You really can work yourself to death. In Japan, they call it karoshi, death by overwork. And people who survive, the survivors of those who die of karoshi can actually apply for workman's comp-like benefits in Japan. But it's not just Japan, it's actually happening even more in the United States. We just don't get benefits here. So they did one study and they found that people who fail to take their vacation are actually a third more likely to get heart disease. Your attitude really matters. Happy people live 7 to 10 years longer than unhappy people. And optimists are 77% less likely to get heart disease than pessimists. So how does this happen? What's happening in the brain that's making the body change? This was what was fascinating to me. What I found is that the brain communicates with all the cells in the body via hormones and neurotransmitters. So for example, if you have a negative thought, belief, or feeling in the brain, your brain triggers this as a threat. Something's wrong. If you feel lonely or pessimistic, things are bad at work, you're in a toxic relationship, the amygdala says, threat, threat, threat. And it turns on the hypothalamus that talks to the pituitary gland, that communicates with the adrenal gland, and the adrenal gland starts spitting out stress hormones like cortisol, norepinephrine, epinephrine. It turns on what Walter Cannon at Harvard called the stress response that triggers the the sympathetic nervous system and puts you into that fight or flight mode, which is adaptive. It's protective if you're running away from a mountain lion, But in everyday life, you're supposed to have that quick stress response if there's a threat, and then it's supposed to switch right off. This isn't what happens in our regular lives these days. But fortunately, there's a counterbalancing relaxation response that Herbert Benson at Harvard described. And when this comes about, the stress response turns off, the parasympathetic nervous system turns on, and healing hormones like oxytocin, dopamine, nitric oxide, endorphins fill the body and bathe every cell in the body. What I found the most amazing about this is that those natural self-repair mechanisms that we all have, they only flip on when the nervous system is relaxed. So when you're having stress responses, that all those natural self-repair mechanisms get flipped off. The body's too busy trying to fight or flee in order to heal itself. So when you think about this, you have to start to wonder, like, how can I possibly start to change the balance in my own body? So one study showed that on average, we have more than 50 stress responses per day. And if you're lonely or depressed or pessimistic or unhappy at work or in a miserable relationship, that number is going to be more than twice as many. Now, the relaxation response is what researchers think explains the placebo effect. So when you're going to get supposedly maybe a new wonder drug, you don't know whether you're getting the placebo or not, it triggers that relaxation response, that combination of the mind's positive belief and the nurturing care of a healthcare provider relaxes the nervous system. And then all those natural self-repair mechanisms can come into play. Fortunately, though, you don't have to be in a clinical trial to turn on your relaxation responses. There are lots of simple, pleasurable activities that turn on the relaxation responses, and these have been proven in the medical literature. So you can meditate. You can express yourself creatively. You can get a massage, do yoga or Tai Chi. You can go out with your friends. You can do work that you love. You can have sex. You can laugh. You can exercise. You can play with animals. So I ask you to consider the whole health cairn in your own life. Which stones in your whole health cairn might be out of balance? Each of these stones can be a factor for creating stress responses or relaxation responses. How might you turn on more relaxation responses in your body? And most importantly, what does your body need in order to heal? What prescription do you need to write for yourself? And are you going to be brave enough to take action on the truth of what your inner pilot light already knows? I believe our system, our healthcare system, is badly broken, and it's largely because we've lost respect for the body's ability to heal itself. The medical establishment has gotten arrogant. We've come to think that with all of our modern technology and all that we've learned in the past century, that we've mastered nature, and we find it repelling to think that maybe nature could be better than we are sometimes. And yet, spontaneous remissions from incurable diseases are proof that sometimes nature's just better than we are. It's a narcissistic wound for physicians. We don't know what to do with that. It makes us feel helpless and hopeless and useless. But fortunately, we're needed. The physician and all the other healthcare providers are absolutely essential to this process. We need to embrace this. And patients need to change their outlooks on this as well. It's not just doctors. We need patients to stop thinking that your body is not your business, taking your power and handing it over to other healthcare providers. Your body is your business, and your mind has tremendous power to communicate with your body such that your body can heal itself. So I once had a dream, and in my dream, I was standing there looking at these mountainsides full of millions of people that were standing shoulder to shoulder, and they were all facing due north, dressed in all these tribal garbs, beautiful colors, covering the mountainsides like a quilt. And there was a bright, streaming light on their face, and everyone was facing this light. And that's what I think of when I think of healthcare. I think of all of us standing up and facing the light. So please stand with me for a moment. It's going to take all of us. Just because things have gotten bad doesn't mean they can't get better. I believe that just like there are no incurable illnesses, there are no incurable systems. But it's going to take all of us needing to open our heart and open our minds and bring care back to healthcare. So please hold hands with your fellow neighbor, and let's just set the intention right here that things are going to be different from now on, that we can start this grassroots effort, that it all starts with you. Be the love that you want to see in healthcare, and I believe miracles can happen. As we do this, you're releasing oxytocin, dopamine. You start to heal yourself. And as we do so, we can heal healthcare. Thank you.
Este copleșitor. N-am văzut un discurs medical mai bun. O gândire corectă și grijă și atenție exprimată face sistemul nervos să se relaxeze și să se autovindece, spunea doamna doctor.
Sigur că da. Aș citat.
Exact.
Da, avem nevoie de psihic, dar avem nevoie și instinctual, trebuie să știi, deși psihic și instinctual, noi avem nevoie de protecție. Deci ființa umană este făcută că noi trebuie să simțim așa că cineva ne protejează. Acel cineva trebuie să fie pregătit, adică să fie o persoană, să zicem, să ne putem baza pe ea, dar trebuie să fie și iubitoare. De exemplu, un medic bun în actul vindecării, dar el deci trebuie să fie bun ca să fie pregătit, dar trebuie să ne atingă și sufletul. De aceea trebuie să fim și în compasiune unii cu ceilalți. Noi toți suntem protejați de vin. De unde vine această, să zicem, nevoia noastră de protecție în momente dificile? Păi vine din relația noastră cu divinitatea, pentru că noi așa funcționăm, noi suntem protejați divin. Și de cele mai multe ori, chiar dacă mintea noastră nu înțelege acest lucru, subconștientul nostru știe. Noi așa funcționăm. Și funcționăm în iubirea și în inteligența divină. Ea creează acel mediu în care noi ne simțim foarte bine, în care noi începem să strălucim. Numai că atunci când ne îmbolnăvim, trebuie să știți că noi de fapt ne deconectăm de la sursa noastră divină, de la această relație firească cu El, și asta este de fapt și boala.
Deci noi trebuie să rezonăm cu medicul, să înțeleg.
Da. Zâmbesc pentru că am ajuns din nou la rezonanță și am ajuns din nou la vibrații. Știți că medicina holistică se ocupă cu vibrațiile, este o medicină vibrațională, așa ne numim, și de aceea, într-adevăr, trebuie să rezonăm cu pacienții noștri. Se spune că pe spatele fiecărui medic scrie numele pacientului său deja și că există o legătură, de aceea vin pacienți de la distanță ca să-i tratăm, dar trebuie să știți că ce urmărește sau ce își dorește pacientul către medicul lui nu este numai priceperea lui medicală. Da? Pentru că sunt foarte mulți medici care sunt foarte pricepuți, aproape toți medicii sunt foarte inteligenți, medicina în general este o meserie grea. Dar, deci nu numai cunoștințele lui, dar și compasiunea lui. E foarte important.
Adică medicul trebuie să empatizeze cu pacientul.
Da, nu este întotdeauna așa cum înțelegem noi empatia asta, că da, într-adevăr, ce înseamnă empatie? Adică să suferi alături de celălalt, dar în actul medical nu e tocmai empatie. Pentru că noi nu avem voie să suferim, că dacă suferim foarte mult ne îmbolnăvim, chiar din contră trebuie să ne protejăm. Trebuie să acordăm sau să emanăm iubire fără să suferim în același timp. E destul de dificil. Și nu este întotdeauna așa, pentru că uneori pacientul, trebuie să știți că vibrează negativ. Adică uneori nu poți așa foarte ușor să refaci acest flux de iubire cu el. El poate că nu reacționează cum ar trebui. Eu am avut și cazuri dificile. Am avut persoane care s-au sculat din scaun și au vrut să plece și unele au și plecat. Da? Adică e complicat. De ce? Pentru că unii sunt încăpățânați și unii sunt inflexibili și anumite persoane își doresc să vină și au spun cumva că vor să se vindece, dar de fapt nu sunt pregătite să se vindece. Alte persoane sunt îngrozite, sunt paralizate de frică și acest lucru le blochează, de exemplu, blochează fluxul comunicării. Iar alte ori pacienții sunt disperați și sunt în deznădejde.
Deci pacientul trebuie abordat și din punct de vedere psihologic?
Dacă vrei să lucrezi cu emoțiile lui. Dar dacă vrei, de exemplu, să lucrezi cu sufletul lui, da? Trebuie să știți că trebuie abordat spiritual în primul rând. Adică, vedeți noastră, sunt foarte importante emoțiile noastre, ne reprezintă, dar numai sufletul fiind, să zicem, cel mai important lucru din corp, numai el poate să inițieze de fapt și să activeze autovindecarea, care e o minune, autovindecarea, da? În ce? Într-un corp blocat energetic, într-un corp care aproape că moare, că boala este așa, o bucățică de moarte sau drumul către moarte. Asta este boala. Și atunci trebuie să știți că ceea care poate să reînvie sau cel care poate să reînvie totul este sufletul. El are această energie a divinității. Și pentru aceasta, medicul are nevoie de puterea lui spirituală, de forța lui spirituală. Deci acest lucru îl aduce el în relația lui cu pacientul.
Cum faceți dumneavoastră acest lucru? Cum vibrați, să spunem așa, cu pacientul?
Noi în medicina holistică vibrăm în multe feluri. Dar cel mai simplu este că folosim un limbaj universal, și anume limbajul muzicii, că știți că este universal. Folosim meloterapia, am arătat de foarte multe ori. Meloterapia este o terapie care atinge, vindecă la nivel sufletesc direct, deci este o formă foarte înaltă de terapie. Se numește limbajul vibrațiilor.
The secrets of frequency and vibration. The one thing we all have in common is music. Music is the universal language bridging all cultures. But why? There is a special connection we as humans have with sounds put in rhythmic patterns. We connect with it instantly. Turn on any fast-paced song around a 2-year-old and they can't help but to dance to the beat. We instinctively understand the vibrational connection of all things through sound. But few people actually know the power that frequencies of sound possess. It can be used as a weapon, or it can be used as a component for healing. In ancient times, geometric patterns and structures were created using certain frequencies of sound. This is known as cymatics. Cymatics is the study of wave phenomena and vibration through sound. It's a method that demonstrates the vibratory nature of reality through frequency and vibration. Studies have shown that frequencies can be used in negative or positive ways. It has been proven that some frequencies can help tune the brain for better focusing while learning. And some low frequencies have been known to cause major discomfort and have an unhealthy effect on the human body. In the 1930s, Dr. Royal Raymond Rife successfully cured 16 out of 16 terminally ill cancer patients in less than 70 days by using his hand-built frequency device. His work was later suppressed for obvious reasons. There are two special frequencies that have a tremendous effect on the human mind and body. Those frequencies are 432 Hz and 528 Hz. 528 Hz is known as the miracle tone and often associated with DNA repair. It resonates with the human body and nature and is one of the original solfeggio scales. In 2010, John Hutchinson, an electromagnetic energy expert from Vancouver, Canada, successfully purified oil-infested waters using 528 Hz and other solfeggio frequencies. The 432 Hz frequency is known as Vertus A and is a sound that is mathematically tuned and the most consistent to nature. Music based in Vertus A has a beneficial healing effect on the human body because it's a tone mathematically fundamental to nature's ability to repair itself. Both 432 Hz and 528 Hz are notes of the same celestial music and are proven to create healing vibrations for the mind, body, and spirit. All the great composers from Bach, Chopin, Mozart, all used 432 Hz as the frequencies to create their masterpieces. The original standard for symphonies and classical compositions was in 432 hertz, but that has since been changed to 440 hertz, a frequency that is not in resonance with the human body. 440 hertz is a unnatural tone that is not found anywhere in nature. When certain authorities found out about the effects certain frequencies have on the body and mind, they began to use it for their own benefit, but to the detriment of others. They would notice how music affected the atmosphere and attitudes of those listening. Here's a history lesson. In Nazi Germany, the propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels changed the original scale from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. They found that 440 hertz stifles creativity and dulls the emotions, keeping the masses under a certain amount of control. Thus, 440 hertz was adopted by the Rockefeller Foundation and set as the official scale for music.
Doamna doctor, care este cea mai importantă capacitate umană care trebuie protejată?
Cel mai de preț lucru al nostru este creativitatea. Creativitatea care este legată de chakra 2, adică locul unde concepem, locul unde ne iubim, locul unde avem o relație bărbat-femeie. De aceea este foarte important să avem familii. Noi potențăm prin relațiile de familie cel mai important lucru al nostru, concepția, creativitatea. Cu alte cuvinte, suntem co-creatori. Actul medical, de asemenea, este un act de creație. Este un act din emisfera dreaptă. Și, bineînțeles, se bazează și pe multe informații ale emisferei stângi. Dar trebuie să știți că nu există doi pacienți la fel. Și știți acest lucru. Medicul trebuie să descopere, cu alte cuvinte, unicitatea pacientului ca să vindece, pentru că el trebuie să fie un maestru. Mai mult, în prezența lui, în asistența lui, în compasiunea lui, în ce emană el, corpul uman declanșează autovindecarea. Deci noi decât asistăm acest lucru și apoi începe spectacolul. Pentru că să știți că autovindecarea nu este decât o poveste a miracolului vindecării.